I'm Cameron Parsons. I'm the technical editor with DSport Magazine, and today we're checking out this sim racing setup. This setup incorporates the Fanatec ClubSport wheelbase Pedals Shifter CSL Steering Wheel P1, and we're using Obutto's R3volution Gaming Cockpit. The Obutto R3volution Cockpit kind of serves as a workstation or for sim racing or flight simulators. It's kind of a do-it-all setup. The whole unit is made with steel tubing with 2mm inch thick walls, so it's designed so that when you're ripping on the wheel or the shifter during your sim races, the whole thing's not going to shake around and jitter and move and make you lose your place. I would highly recommend that anybody that's assembling one of these at home refer to the video that Obutto has online available for you to reference to put this thing together. All in all, it did take 3 or 4 hours. I might be particularly slow, but that's how long it took us to do here at the office. It comes with this racing seat that actually feels pretty dang close to the real thing. It is adjustable. It can bolt in multiple points on the rails, so you can make for bigger changes depending on your height. It does have sliders attached to it too, so you can slide it forward and back. It also has a tilt. It has a swivel keyboard and mouse tray, so you can get that over your lap for when you're working or move it out of the way for when you're getting in and out. On this side, it has a movable cup holder mount. And up here, it has a shifter mount where you can adjust the height or adjust the angle of where the shifter sits for you. Up here, where the steering wheel mounts, you can adjust the tilt so it can go up or down, and you can adjust distance from you. So one thing to note about it though is how, if you want to slide it closer, it's going to be sliding up at the same time. Down on the bottom, you have the pedal tray, which also is pre-drilled for different distances as well. So you can adjust the pedals back and forth for whatever works best for your height and comfort. It also includes a monitor stand. So the monitor stand accepts most 19 to 55 inch monitors and TVs. It's got the holes pre-drilled on the back for mounting, and it also swivels and can be adjusted forward and back. Alright, so starting things off, we have the ClubSport wheelbase. This is the V2 version that Fanatec offers. This one features a brushless electric motor and is belt driven to help provide still strong feedback, but also a smooth feel throughout the wheel. That way, unlike some direct driven models or gear driven models, it's less rigid and less clunky in the feel of the steering wheel. The steering wheel that we're using is the CSL Steering Wheel P1. It has aluminum paddle shifters, joystick D-pad, and all the basics to get started on. The shifter features an aluminum shift knob. It actually has a lot of weight to it to feel extra realistic. The whole thing is made of metal, including the internals inside, and so it's got a really nice notchy feeling to feel like a modern sports car gearbox with that interlocking of the gears that you look for when you're driving a real car. It has reverse and a 7th gear for the cars that feature that as well. On top of being an H pattern, these switches on the side, now it does not move left or right in an H pattern fashion anymore, it's simply a sequential. So the pedals that we're using on this simulator are Fanatec's ClubSport V3 pedals. These are their top of the line ones. As you can see, it's all brushed aluminum on the outside. It's got a real nice finish to it. We have the clutch that has a very realistic progressive feel, just like a real car. The brake pedal features a 90 kilogram force load cell. It is also adjustable, so you can make it feel more like stiff brake pedal out of a Formula car. You can soften it up to make it feel more like a street car, but the range of adjustment on it is really good, and it feels very, very similar to the real thing. You have the gas pedal here, which also is just resisted by a spring. The brake and gas do have vibration motors on them, so you actually can get a fair amount of feedback just in your feet, so you can feel differences in amount of grip or amount of grip loss during your simulation races. So we've hooked up a computer to our simulator and we loaded up iRacing, so we're going to try out the MX-5 Cup car for a couple laps around Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, so let's see how it fares. So I'll add that iRacing is really popular software to use for lots of sim racers and lots of real life racers. It's a really good training tool for learning new tracks and dialing in car setups. One of the most surprising things is how much feedback you do have on the wheel. It actually really fights you if you're driving a car that runs on slick tires like this Cup car. The gas and the clutch feel a lot like other sims. The clutch does give a fair amount of progressive resistance like you'd expect out of a real car. The gas is pretty obviously resisted by simple spring setup, but it's the brake that really stands out on this thing. The brake, it builds up very quickly while still progressively, so it gives you a good feel for how much input you're putting into the car. So the pedals are absolutely one of the highlight points on this whole setup. The shifter definitely has that nice mechanical feel. If this were a real car that I was driving, I would say it feels a lot like an S2000 gearbox. It's got that real nice short throw, still has that real satisfying feeling of engagement with every gear change. So only thing is, if you have a look at the shifter, you can see that how it's mounted on this Revolution cockpit. It does have a fair bit of wobble. Now this isn't really happening with Fanatec's mounts on the shifter. It's mostly down, the rod setup down here. It just does that little shake right there. Now it's not too big of a deal if you're not paying attention, you probably won't notice it. But when you're driving some laps on here and you see it out of the corner of your eye, it's a little bit distracting and a little bit frustrating seeing that it's still moving around. However, with the steering wheel and the steering wheel mount, this thing is super solid. It's not moving at all, so it's really giving you a good accurate feel for what the car is giving back to you. You can really feel the quality and the force feedback and the resistance on this thing in the wheelbase especially. With that brushless motor and the belt-driven setup, it is very smooth. When you're going through the hard turns that give a lot of resistance back to you, it never feels clunky in any way. Some can have a tendency to feel almost like something's grinding inside, or almost as if you can feel the individual teeth on the gears turning against each other. But this one's very seamless feel for the road and feel for the car. The CSL wheel is one of Fanatec's more introductory options for a wheel, but they have plenty of other ones that are super high quality. One's based off of street Porsche models, GT race cars, Formula race cars. You can pretty much change it to cater to whatever type of racing you want to do. When you have this setup, you're going to be checking out different simulators and games like Assetto Corsa or iRacing, a personal favorite of mine. You have all kinds of options out there. It'll work with all software available for PC and for the Xbox. Fanatec also offers a handbrake that you can add on to this. The cool thing about using iRacing is that iRacing laser scans, I believe, all the tracks that they offer for its customers. The realism is very much there. Every little bump and pit in the road, almost all the references that you look for braking points, throttle, tracking in and out, everything is right there where you expect it to be. So, all in all, when you put the pieces together, the Fanatec gear, the wheelbase, the pedals, the shifter, the steering wheel, all adds up to about $1,240. The Obutto R3volution cockpit, MSRP is at about $800. So overall, we are looking at a setup of about $2,000 total. But keep in mind when you're talking about a simulator of this caliber, this is not something to jump in and casually play Need for Speed on. You totally can, but for something like that, you might go with lower end, more arcade style wheels and cockpits. For this guy in particular, it's definitely set up for more of the hardcore racer or hardcore sim racer, or anybody that's looking to tune their car from the comfort of their home without going to the track, learning a racetrack without risking a car in real life. It's more of a tool for many, and for the sim racers who are more serious about this as a hobby, it's definitely useful in that sense. So at $2,000, it does come with a hefty price tag, but if you're using it for the purposes that's intended for, it's definitely a blast to drive. It's a huge help in learning racetracks and is just super entertaining and useful for racers and sim racers alike.